we have been renovating our 1940 semi-detached house for 1 month now, and I want to give you a rundown of all the unexpected costs or things that basically have pushed the budget up. Now, I've been going through day by day and doing videos, so I'll go into specific details about things in those videos, but I thought I'd do a roundup of things that have maybe, I won't say caught us out, but things we didn't actually have in our budget that we've had to add. And it's normally the small things, believe it or not. So let's start with the push fit connections for all the pipe work. So what we've had done is all new radiators basically downstairs. So there's a new radiator going there. There is a new radiator going on the wall there. That's already there, that's covered. But what we discovered was a bit of spaghetti junction of pipe work under the floor. So here as well, because they had radiators in different positions, we've moved them. So we had all kinds of connections. So we've then done push fit connections from the boiler, which is here. So it comes down now, and we've rerouted stuff. And also, to add into that, they routed the heating pipes for the upstairs radiators up the side of the chimney. So everything came here. Obviously our chimney's now been removed, as you can see, all documented in previous videos. So what that meant is we couldn't have all the pipe work running to there because there's no point. For one, it was extra routing for the cables, and obviously the chimney's coming out. So we factored in all the pipe. Obviously we need like 22mm pipe. I think it was everywhere, 22 and 15mm pipe work. But what we didn't put in was these connectors. You see, like these couplers, you need these couplers, you need T's, you need inserts, you need 22mm to 15mm reducers. We needed so many, and in total that came to £120 just for the connectors alone. So it's not even for the pipes, the pipe work, which was all 15mm is plastic pipe. It was all the connectors. We may have some extras and spares left over. It's all this this stuff, this speed fit, JG speed fit, this sort of thing, like these T's. And you normally have to buy them in bags as well of like 10. So that's what we've been doing. So things like that, you know, that bag alone, I think that bag was like 15 quid for 5 of those. So that added up real quick, especially when we started doing all the radiators. We've done a radiator here as well, and then upstairs we've done all the radiators as well. So we rerouted a lot of pipe work. So we got a new radiator there, we got a new radiator in the office there, a new radiator in this bedroom. So there's also a towel rail in here, which is the ensuite. The layout's all changed as well, all documented in the previous videos. So 120 quid on push fit connections, and that was the ones that I can remember. I've been nipping to Screwfix and buying these as and when we need them. So that was the first one. The second one was the radiator valves. So when you buy the radiators, like this, new radiator for example, the cost of the radiator all good, but they don't come with the TRV valves. Now we haven't got it on there at the minute, but basically they are the little valves that go around the base of the radiator, like this one. This is an old one. So you can see that, you know, the thing you can twist to turn it up and down. Now you can go cheap or you can get expensive ones, whatever you wish. We budgeted, when we started looking, around £20 per radiator. So when you add it all up, 6 new radiators, £120 for the valves, just for the radiator valves. Now, granted, what we done here in all downstairs, because we're having wooden floor, is all the radiators go into the wall rather than go into the floor. So you can see it used to go down to the floor, this one, but we've done this. So this is the non-TRV side, goes straight into the wall. So these ones, the corner TRVs, cost a bit more, but we spoke to our builder and he was like, if you're doing wood floor down here, it will look really neat, and it's easier to do the floor, looks good. So we went with that. So a little bit more work chasing the cable into the wall as well for these radiators downstairs, and there's 3 of those. So yeah, costs on the plumbing, so that's 120 and 120 so far. Then we had extra wood that we needed to buy, which wasn't too bad because wood's not crazy expensive, but it was an unexpected cost, and that is basically because the joists along here were rotten. So the joists, if you look at this floor, you can see in previous videos, all run this way. We've had the floor up and insulated and everything. So the joists all run towards the window. They all sat on top of one piece of wood that went all the way across. That piece of wood was rotten, like basically crumbling, because this used to be a door. Currently it's just a window, basically storage. So yeah, this used to be a door, so we think water had come in over the years and it had water had got in somehow and rotted out that joist. And then also there was a couple of bits we had to fix in and around. That one that sat underneath all these joists had to be screwed down into the foundation as well to make this floor really secure. So that was there. And then we also had the same issue over here, which was in the bay window. And this has had some damp issues. Basically, if I drop that down here, it was showing signs of damp. Now we've exposed it all and it's actually looking okay and it's nice and warm, so it's drying out. But what happened is this floor was also basically, they're suspended floors, but it's basically floating. So what we had to do there is another fix. We put one piece of wood under all the joists, so the joists run this way. We put one piece of wood underneath them all, and in there was a massive chunk of wood, huge. It was like 4x8 that was underneath. So maybe over the years that had come loose. So yeah, it was all secured down. This is now absolutely solid. Obviously all the floorboards were up, you see in previous videos, so they've all been secured down. This has been insulated and now it really does feel solid. In a weird way, it took an echo out. Before, with the floorboards, it had like an echo because obviously there's drafty areas and gaps in between. The same in here. This is now solid. The floor was done differently in here though. More on that in a sec. So with that as well, so doing that, those rotten joists and the rotten joists in the lounge as well, we also had the additional time for the builder to do it. But at the end, I'll explain all the issues or things we've encountered that have basically gone to more time for the builder, which is an additional cost. So those are coming soon. Next up, we have broken fibre cable. So it's one of them things. On the very first day, something happened over here. I was out. This fibre cable got pulled and it basically broke in the wall, which was a bit of a nightmare. We only had it installed a week. So anyway, the builder's really good. We know him and he's a family friend. It's an accident. He offered to pay full price. And if he offered to pay, I was going to say we'll pay half. So we went halves on that. Which kind of set the tone from the start. So that's where we're at with that. And yeah, that's just an error or a mistake. But the fiber's all working and we can carry on working from home. The next thing that was a hidden cost, I'll say hidden, I just wasn't sure if we'd have to pay or not, but we did. And that is for the council to come out and inspect this beam and the beam that's up in the loft. We've taken out the chimney, so there's a beam in the loft. And then this one was put in to take out the kitchen wall. Now, we paid £318, and I'm not going to lie, someone came out for 9 minutes. And then basically they said, send a picture once you've used a fireboard over here to box it all in. This pink board is fireboard. Once you've boxed it all in, send a picture, we'll sign it off. So 318 quid for them to sign it off. And I'll probably say, I haven't added it into this video, but the cost of actually getting the calculations done for this is £320 per calculation. We needed two. It's £640 for these calculations. It feels like it's the least. It's hard to explain. When you get a builder in, you pay them per day, they work hard all day, you see their work. With this, you pay the money, and it feels like they just literally put it into like a calculator. Yep, you need that beam, these are standard beams, they're the same width as the brick, and it's done. Just my perception, obviously maybe this is a simple job for structural engineers so they can just glance at it, but the cost doesn't drop for a simple job. It doesn't matter if the beam is even smaller, you still pay your same amount. So yeah, 318 for the council to come out and approve that, and the one in the loft. Now we also have tubed products. So when I say tubed products, I'm classing in that things like expanding foam, grab adhesives, silicons, anything that's sort of in a tube that you kind of need, fillers, things like that. So we've spent, I don't know how much on that, to be honest. I need to go through and add it all up, but I reckon it's around £50 to £100 so far. So what we've done for the remainder of the work, we've just added in a sort of tubed product cost at another 50 or 100 quid because you're constantly needing them. So yeah, that was just something we didn't have in our budget, so I've added it to the list and added it to this video. The other one, another big cost, unexpected cost, was this floor. So this floor is all tongue and groove chipboard, the whole lot. So I think we had 11 sheets in the end, or 11 boards or 12, and it came to £175. Now the reason that was an unexpected cost is because, you can't see them out there, but behind that table is all the old floorboards. Now when we took these boards up, I had just assumed, we'll just put them all back down exactly as it was. But what happened was loads of these were screwed in, hidden screws that were sunk. And as the boards come up, some break, some, it basically, we only had enough to probably do half the room by the time we'd got all the broken ones up, and we had sort of worked it all out. Also, unless you draw each one, this one's number 1, number 2, number 3, working out which one's which in terms of time is actually quite long. So in the end, we needed to do another strip here where the wall come out. We didn't have enough boards. We didn't want to mix and match half the room. So we went for new tongue and groove chipboards, which are I think they're 2.4 by 600 they are. So pretty long. That's only 600, so a bit more manageable. So yeah, that's an extra cost, 175. One thing I will say though with that, this went down really quick. So these boards are obviously massive. They need far less cutting, and you get them down quick. So you save time for the builder. It probably took him to do all of this room and what is now under the toilet. That wasn't there a few days ago. All of this room, probably took a couple of hours or an hour, just under 2 hours. And this took way, way longer because you're measuring every board and you're trying to get it right. You got to cut them all, measure, cut, measure, cut, measure, cut. But something nice about using the original floorboards, at least we know they are in here. So that is another additional cost that we did not expect. Also, we have screws and nails, because I did have some in there, but you just need them for everything. For example, we've had plasterboard screws. We need 1,000 of those by the time you start adding it up, and the bits we've got upstairs. We needed wood screws, 100mm wood screws for all the stud work for this stud wall. Also for the joists, we bought wood screws for the joists as well, so those could be done. We had screws for the nail gun as well. Nail gun's been used here, there and everywhere basically. So we had screws for the nail gun, £15. Joist hanger screws, nails, sorry. So to go in the joist hangers where we made the floor good here has 8x2. So those all had joist hangers. So they needed nails. So, it's £10 a pack, roughly, you average for these sort of screws. So that adds up quick, you're into your 40, 50 quid pretty quickly before you know it. So yeah, another £100 odd, on screws isn't unreasonable when you're doing quite a large reno. And it's good to just have them as well. It really frustrates me as, when the builder has to wait because he doesn't have screws or things like that. Granted, we use what you can, and I've got loads of screws, but if there's specific ones we need, or ones to mount on, for example, actually, that's another one I've just thought of, to mount these radiators. This is a Type 22 1.6 radiator, it's 50 kilos. We needed massive structural screws, bolts, whatever you call them, that go into the wall. So those little screws, fixings, nails, they all add up. So factor in a bit of budget there. Now what we've done is just put a bit of extra money in for the remainder of the work. Insulation is another one, although we did know we were going to have to pay for it. So these floors, under these floors, is Celotex. So this has all been insulated, this whole room, which is the dining room, and the lounge has all been insulated as well, completely insulated. So that cost £300 roughly for 9 sheets. I think we had a bit less down, but it when you go to buy it and it's 300 quid, you think, okay, yeah. I think we had maybe 200 odd in. I'm not too sure what we had, but it felt like at the time that's a big additional cost. Now we went for it because obviously here in the UK, these are suspended floors. There's air under the floors. There's air vents, so air can travel under to keep everything dry, but that also lets drafts up in the winter. So you can already tell the sort of difference with how I said earlier, like the echo, the sound. So hopefully in the winter, this will be really, really good. I've heard good things, keep our costs down for the winter. To add to that as well, we needed we cut the Celotex, but 70-year-old joists were basically wonky like this. So we had gaps. So what we had to do is fill the gaps with expanding foam, trim off any excess expanding foam. Then we taped over all the joints with foil tape. Foil tape's £10, £15 a roll. So these little costs, these little £10, £15, they all add up real quick. Now, on top of those sort of costs, So I know we've only been downstairs at the minute. We've got upstairs as well, really. But if I talk about some other costs that were not direct things we've had to buy, but extra costs in the builder's time. So obviously if we uncover something that takes the builder half a day, that's half a day's labour, that's the extra cost there. First one, extractor fan for this, which is the toilet. So if we go inside here, it's hard to see in the dark, not got any lights yet, but we need an extractor fan in here. Now we can put it at the back. The joists all run this way, okay? So in line, so downstairs, they run that way across, and upstairs, they run this way. Extractor fan can go above the toilet, it can come to this wall here, which is fine, it can come here, but then it cannot go across because the joists in the ceiling here are all this way. You can't put an extractor fan through the joists, obviously, it's like nearly as big as them. So what we've done is we're gonna run it down here, out here, we're gonna box in, the beam needs to be boxed in with fireboard, and then alongside it, we're gonna box in, along here, a box for the extractor fan, and then this pipework will all get boxed in. We'll bring this wall forward from here because this is going to be 30 centimeters deeper, so it should marry up. Box that in and probably potentially box that wall in, which will give us a new plasterboard on that wall. So that's going to be additional time. It was the only way we could get an extractor fan in there, and the reason we want it all. Sorry, there was a delivery. So I was saying, yeah, the only way we could do it was to have some boxing in, but obviously that takes more time. Now we're estimating for the builder that is going to take an extra half a day at least. We also, as I said earlier, had to redo the pipe work. Now, while that added additional, couplers, bends and those push fittings, it also added quite a bit of time, so we didn't expect it. Pipes used to come from here, over there, up the chimney, and through there. We also had a water tank in the loft that was gravity feeding one of the bathrooms, so that all got taken out. The new water feed goes straight up and heating pipes go straight up. I can't remember exactly where it all is, but yeah, they've done it in a nice efficient way, shortest runs and nice and clean and new, and we know it's done right. But that took about another half a day at least as well. And upstairs we had new sockets, so we've had new sockets all down here. These were fine, we estimated for that. But upstairs, I'm not entirely sure what happened, but the builder's our friend. He's not trying to pull a fast one. Is the socket and the wiring up here wasn't done right on the phases at the electrical box, which is under the stairs. I'm not entirely sure on all the details. So up here, we actually done a whole new circuit. So you can see the old ones, we've just got new ones. So it was easier to run a new one everywhere because we've got the floorboards that can come up. So we've run new sockets everywhere. It was obviously took more time, but it can basically, I don't know with electrics too much. Something to do with phases and making sure it's all right so that it's all up to spec and correct. But all these sockets have all been done and the wiring upstairs. So that's probably added another day to do all these sockets and all these wiring. So yeah, that's where we're at with the sockets. Another unexpected one under here in the floor is a steel beam. Now we think if we go downstairs that once upon a time the wall between the dining room and the lounge was actually not there, this wall. So there's a beam just above. It's in the floor though, so no way to see it, no boxing in or anything. But what that meant is when we wanted to run all our pipe work through the floor for the radiators, there was a nice big steel beam in the way. It looked pretty old and the builder had a tough time getting through it, getting the angles and getting through. So new pipe work goes under to this radiator there, and then onward to the radiator in here. So yeah, it took another few hours to get through this beam, and it's also a consideration, running anything through there. There is a steel beam there, so added time, and added time is added cost. And that all equated to around 2.5 days. So if we call it around £500 additional for the builder's time, and then if we add in all the additional actual costs that we had started with, that's 900. So that brings us to £1,400 in additional costs for the first month, which isn't a disaster, but you would rather not have them. So we're on track with our budget, kind of ish. We're adding things on. Don't mind if the cost goes up based on our own decisions. Like, for example, having the radiator corner valves, that's fine. That was our choice. Finding the steel beam, can't do anything about. But it's things like nails, tube products that probably should have been in the budget that have slowly make it creep up here and there. Primer for the primer for the brickwork, for example, so that can all be plastered. Things like that. I didn't factor them in. I've done my best on it, but I didn't know. So yeah, £1,400, and I believe for the first month, I don't have the figure to hand, but I know it's around £10,400, and that includes labour though, so that's the biggest cost. When you factor in, we've had around 17 days labour so far. When it's around 250 a day, that's the biggest expense. But it's really starting to come together. Things are starting to go up. The toilet, is all framed in. Plasterboard's starting to go in. The plaster will be coming around soon, and look over everything, and he can start on certain rooms. So that's the additional costs and hidden costs. I'll see you in the next one.